you get down to the end of the year, Penn State season's done. They're going to sit around for about 5-6 weeks and wait and watch. But now we have conference playoffs. We have some serious rivalries coming up this weekend, the next couple weekends. This is when the BCS really starts getting interesting and plays into this thing. How do you see the BCS playing out with what I'm going to call playoffs, even though college football doesn't really have it? This is this version of the playoffs.
It's the goofy version of playoffs that the sports has. And I'll give you a couple of things. You know, these traditional rivalry games are very common at the end of the year, in-state rivalries. And this weekend, there's 4 of them. Oklahoma State, Alabama, Auburn.
That's a good one.
Oregon State, and Florida State. All 4 of those, and crazy things tend to happen in those games. All 4 of them could play into the BCS, the national championship picture, or who's going to go to the BCS bowls. And based on that, a lot of crazy things can happen, no question.
I guarantee that at least one of the teams that you think is going to win is going to lose. Not all of them, but at least one of them is going to be an upset somewhere. It's just when you got teams that are that big of rivals, and I know how it is with Auburn and Alabama. I've been down there in Alabama when those 2 teams were going at it once, and it is that state is crazy at that time of the year. Talk a little bit about some of the scenarios that could play out. Where do we see some teams going here, Mike?
Well, let's say that Florida loses to Florida State. Not likely, but possible.
It is possible.
And then plays Alabama beats Auburn. They play in the SEC championship game, and Florida beats them 60-0. What happens to Alabama? How far do they drop? They could drop as far as 6th or something like that. Let's say that this is the really crazy one. If Oklahoma State beats Oklahoma, now Oklahoma State is the number 12 team in the country. They'll be at home. Oklahoma State's coming off this huge showdown with Texas Tech. I mean, they're possibly Oklahoma a little bit vulnerable. If Oklahoma State wins that game, now you have 2 teams tied for the division title in the Big 12, and the tiebreaker is the head-to-head. Those 2 teams are Texas and Texas Tech. Texas Tech won that game head-to-head, so they would go play in the BCS in the Big 12 championship game, and very possibly Texas could play for the national championship.
Wow.
Not play for their own conference, not make their own conference championship game, but play for the national championship.
Which do you think they'd rather have?
I'm going to guess the latter. Yeah.
Interesting.
And people think, well, these upsets aren't going to happen. Hey, last year on week 14, we're going into week 14, Ohio State was 7th, I think.
I knew that's where you were going with that.
And they ended up playing for the national championship. LSU ended the year with 2 losses and won the national championship.
So crazier things have happened.
And I think they were like 6th in the BCS, something like week 11 or something like that. So crazy. I mean, I think it's less likely for something like that to happen this year, but lots of stuff would have to fall into place.
That's why I think in some cases the Big 10 and the Pac-10 not having conference championships actually helps those teams. It helped Ohio State last year.
No question.
That they got to sit around and watch these teams in front of them lose, and they just got to slide right up there, sneak in the back door type
which
of thing.
could happen to a USC, for example.
USC, not Penn State. They're 8th this year. I don't see it happening. There's too many teams in front. But USC could be the team you think that could slide up in that sort of back door into the championship. They're 5th now, correct?
I think they're 5th, yeah. I think they're 5th. And they could sneak in if the scenario that I just mentioned with the Big 12 plays out, and Alabama drops, which could happen with a loss, then I think USC has a good chance to play maybe Texas for the national championship. Could happen.